The room smelled faintly of antiseptic and fresh paint, the kind of smell that tried too hard to feel clean, to feel hopeful. Sunlight streamed in through tall windows, drawing warm lines across the polished floor, but it couldn't quite reach the corners where silence sat heavy. In one of those corners, near a row of empty chairs, a little girl sat in her wheelchair, her small hands folded neatly in her lap as if she had practiced sitting that way her whole life. Her name was Alina, and at just 6 years old, she had already learned how to make herself invisible. Across the room, people came and went. Some glanced at her briefly, offering polite smiles that never lasted more than a second. Others didn't look at her at all. To them, she was just part of the background, like the chairs, like the walls, like the quiet hum of the air conditioner. But to Alina, every passing moment felt like a reminder of something she didn't fully understand, yet felt deeply. She watched as a couple walked in, holding hands, their laughter filling the space. They passed right by her. Then a nurse came, calling out a name, not hers. Another child, younger than her, was picked up by their mother, wrapped in a warm hug, and carried out. Alina's eyes followed them until they disappeared. Then she said it. Softly at first, almost like she was afraid the words might break if spoken too loudly. No one picks me. The words lingered in the air, fragile but powerful. She wasn't crying. There were no tears. Just a quiet truth that had been building inside her for far too long. A few feet away, a man froze. He had just stepped into the room, his polished shoes clicking softly against the floor. He wore a tailored charcoal suit, the kind that spoke of success without needing to say a word. His watch gleamed under the sunlight, and his presence carried the quiet authority of someone used to being listened to. People knew him as a billionaire, a man who had built an empire from nothing, a man who controlled companies, made headlines, and lived a life most could only dream of. But in that moment, none of that mattered. Because he heard her. He turned slowly, his gaze landing on the small girl in the wheelchair. Something in his expression changed, not dramatically, not in a way others would notice, but enough to reveal that her words had reached somewhere deep inside him. He walked toward her. Not with hesitation, not with curiosity, but with intention. As he approached, Alina looked up at him. She wasn't used to people stopping for her, especially not someone like him. Her eyes held a mixture of surprise and caution, as if she was unsure whether this moment was real or just another fleeting glance. The man knelt down beside her, lowering himself until they were at eye level. It was a simple gesture, but one that spoke volumes. He wasn't looking down at her. He wasn't towering over her. He met her where she was. "Hey," he said softly, his voice calm and warm. "What did you just say?" Alina hesitated. She wasn't used to being asked questions like that. Usually, people asked things like, "Are you okay?" or "Do you need help?" Questions that never really saw her. She swallowed gently, then repeated it, this time a little clearer. "No one picks me." There was no self-pity in her voice. Just honesty. The man didn't respond right away. Instead, he studied her face, the way her eyes held a quiet strength, the way her small shoulders seemed to carry more weight than they should. Then he did something no one else in that room expected. He smiled. Not a polite smile. Not the kind people use out of obligation. A real one. "Well," he said, his tone shifting ever so slightly, "that sounds like a very big mistake." Alina blinked, confused. "A mistake?" she asked. "Yes," he nodded. "A huge one." For the first time, a hint of curiosity replaced the quiet sadness in her eyes. "Why?" she asked. The man leaned in slightly, as if sharing a secret. "Because," he said, "if no one has picked you yet, it just means they don't know how special you are." The words landed differently. They weren't loud. They weren't dramatic. But they were real. Alina looked at him, searching his face, trying to figure out if he meant it. People had said nice things before, but they always felt empty, like something rehearsed. This felt different. "Do you really think that?" she asked quietly. "I don't think it," he replied. "I know it." There was a pause. Then, slowly, carefully, he reached out his hand. "Can I sit with you for a bit?" he asked. Alina nodded. Minutes turned into something more. They talked, not about her wheelchair, not about what she couldn't do, but about her favorite colors, the stories she liked, the things that made her laugh. For the first time in a long time, Alina felt seen. Not as the girl in the wheelchair, but just as her. Across the room, people began to notice. Whispers spread quietly. Is that him? Yes, it is. What is he doing? But he didn't care. For once, the man who had everything the world could offer chose to give something far more valuable, his time, his attention, his presence. After a while, he stood up. Alina's heart sank just a little. She had grown used to moments ending. But then he did something that changed everything. He gently placed his hands on the handles of her wheelchair. Ready? He asked. For what? She replied. To go somewhere better than this corner, he said with a grin. And just like that, he began to push her forward, out of the shadows, into the sunlight that filled the room. People watched. Some smiled. Some were stunned. But Alina. She felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Chosen. As they moved across the room, the man spoke again, his voice steady but filled with meaning. You know, he said, sometimes the world doesn't pick people right away. Not because they're not worth it, but because their moment hasn't come yet. Alina listened closely. And when that moment does come, he continued, it's bigger than anything they ever imagined. They stopped near the window, where the sunlight wrapped around them like a quiet promise. The man crouched beside her once more. From today, he said, I want you to remember something. Alina nodded. You are not someone who gets overlooked, he said. You are someone the world is still preparing for. Her eyes widened slightly. Really, she whispered. Really, he smiled. And in that moment, something shifted inside her. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it was powerful. Because for the first time, she didn't feel like the girl no one picked. She felt like the girl worth waiting for. And as the men walked away, leaving behind not just footprints but a changed perspective, Alina sat there in the sunlight, no longer hidden, no longer invisible. Just seen. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because sometimes, the smallest stories carry the biggest lessons, and the next one might just change the way you see the world.